While we have learned a massive amount of information about Path of Exile 2 in the last month or so, there's still a huge boatload of features we don't know anything about in Path of Exile 2, or really, we don't know truly how they will appear in PoE 2. I'm going to talk about 5 of them today, right now, starting with the most anticipated feature, and that is Endgame in Path of Exile 2. Jonathan Rogers, the game director, has talked about how Endgame in PoE 2 will be built on the foundation of Path of Exile 1's mapping system. They found a system they enjoyed there, they're going to have it in PoE 2. This means the essential maps that you put somewhere to load into will be in the game. This means that the Atlas passive skill tree or something like it will be in the game as well. Beyond that, we don't know much. We do know that the crafting system in PoE 2, with the way orbs have changed, will fundamentally change the way that we map, with Chaos Orbs no longer re-rolling the maps, with Orbs of Scouring being completely removed from the game. How are you going to get rid of bricked modifiers? Will you be able to get rid of bricked modifiers? I don't exactly know. We also know that in Path of Exile 2's endgame, we will be focusing on the League mechanics from Path of Exile 1, at least at the beginning. This is explicitly stated on the Path of Exile 2 website if we go to the endgame section, wherein it says, at the conclusion of Path of Exile 2's 6-act campaign, you'll gain access to its endgame. Each of the more than 100 endgame maps has its own boss fight and modifiers that enable revamped versions of many of Path of Exile's past leagues. We'll reveal more details of the surprises that await you in Path of Exile 2's endgame in the lead up to release. And besides that, we don't know anything about Endgame. We know that we'll probably be getting information soon because they're planning to release early access in November or December of this year. We're 95% sure it's November, and we only have about 5 months to go. So in that lead up, expect some news at GGG Live or some other event. Now, speaking about Endgame, let's move into the other most anticipated thing about Path of Exile 2 that we have not learned about yet, and those are the 4 other classes. This is the Templar, the Marauder, and then, surprisingly, the Shadow, or the Assassin, and the Duelist, or the Gladiator. I say or there for those final 2 classes because on the Path of Exile 2 website, again, if you actually go to it and you go to the classes section, and GGG will probably hate that I'm doing this, and you inspect and you search down for the actual roles somewhere, where is it? Ah, yes, the rolled slot. You go into the code a few times and you look at the ones that have not yet been revealed. If you scroll all the way down to the hidden ones right here, the disabled ones, you get the Assassin, which would be the Shadow, and you get the Gladiator, which would be the Duelist. Now, we don't know if those are confirmed name changes, they just might be in the code, but it is interesting that they decided to go with different fantasies, especially for the Duelist and Gladiator, wherein the Gladiator was an ascendancy of the Duelist, and I don't think the Gladiator communicates an ascendance or an idea better than the actual Duelist does. With the Assassin versus the Shadow, I definitely see that. The Assassin is more evocative and probably conjures an image in people's minds, where in the Shadow, it's like, well, it's a shadow. Okay, cool stuff. This is going to be Path of Exile 2's version of a rogue. I'm gonna love to see it. It's gonna be good. I'm excited. And we don't know anything really about these classes. We know one of them has traps. The Templar will likely be more supportive, have to do with flails. We know that the Marauder is focused around axes. And we know, of course, that the Duelist is going to be the sword class, probably dual wielding, probably two-handed greatsword, stuff like that. Other than that, we don't know much else. And I'm really looking forward to learning about these classes in the lead up to early access or during early access itself, because Jonathan did say while they're aiming to get as many classes as possible into Path of Exile 2's early access, we might just not get all the classes in there at release. We're probably going to get 8 or 9. That's my prediction, at least. Talking about the classes, there's something else that builds on top of them that is the next most anticipated unrevealed feature, and those are the Ascendancy classes for Path of Exile 2. Now, we know that every class will get 3 Ascendancy classes at the end of the day, but at the beginning of early access, every class is only promised at least 1. And for those of you who may be newer to Path of Exile 1 or 2, Ascendancy classes are essentially prestige classes that are layered on top of the normal class. It's really the only determining new factor when you choose your class besides the starting position and the tree, right? You see right here in Path of Exile 1, the duelist has the Slayer, the Gladiator, and the Champion. And each of these builds on to that base class and gives you a new skill tree that you have access to. This is going to be the exact same in Path of Exile 2, except in PoE 2, as opposed to Path of Exile 1, the devs have stated that they'd like to give these Ascendancies more new skills, more impactful passives. So expect something a little bit more radical than what we see in Path of Exile 1. Even though a lot of these classes are pretty darn cool. This is setting the bar high, and I am ready for Grinding Gear Games to exceed our expectations, even with that high set bar. In addition, we know that these classes will not be revealed until Grinding Gear Games is absolutely set on the balance of them. They're very scared to showcase an Ascendancy when it's not in a proper balance state, because they are so radically different than the normal set of classes in PoE, because they're not defined by the skill gems that you find or the items that you find. They are defined by the passives and the new skills that they will grant you, and only they can grant you those skills. So if Grinding Gear Games shows us up something absolutely insane, say you can turn into a Were-Roa as the Shapeshifter Ascendancy for the Druid, and then they decide, oh, actually, we don't want to do that. We don't like the balance, or we don't like how it's designed. We're going to go back on that. The community will be absolutely angry. And back at ExileCon 2019, they showcased a few of these things. For the Ranger, there was an Ascendancy that was basically the Druid. It was called the Beastmaster, and you could summon a big cat to be your companion, a panther, a lion, or a tiger. How cool is that? Or you could turn into a werecat using that Ascendancy. There was another Ascendancy for the Ranger wherein you could use bows with melee skill gems. That's radical. That's different. However, that was all the way back then. I don't know if that's still in the game, right? So if they were to showcase something like that now, and the video on YouTube gets 2 million views, everybody's talking about it in the community, they plan on releasing early access in 6 months, and then they decide to go against it, the community would be pretty upset, and rightly so. So that's why they're waiting so long to reveal anything about Ascendancy classes, and I agree with their decision making here. Now let's move on to number 4 of 5, and that is unique items. In Path of Exile 2, we have only seen a small subset of unique items. I'll actually post one of the unique items we've seen on the screen now, and that was in the latest playtest with Gazzy. He basically found a pair of robes or a piece of clothing that would allow you to be agnostic, using the agnostic keystone or an edited version of it from Path of Exile 1 in PoE 2. That's super cool. And that is their design philosophy behind uniques in PoE 2. They want them, just like Ascendancies, actually very similar to Ascendancy classes, to radically shift your gameplay and change the way your skills look, the way your character looks, the way an existing skill functions, or turn an archetype on its head. I'm very excited for that, and I'm very excited for the visual changes that they're going to make. Jonathan Rogers gave an example of a unique item that's in PoE 1 that will be in PoE 2, and how it is visually changing the game, and that is Rat's Nest. That's a weapon that you can use, and I think it's a claw, and if you kill someone with it in PoE 2, rats dig into the corpse and crawl out. How awesome is that? And I'm sure the item itself has rats crawling around inside of it. That's visually pleasing. That sounds like MTX, but it's going to be a part of the base game. Another reason we're not seeing a lot of unique items is because Jonathan Rogers himself said the team wants to watch the community discover all of these items on release. I think unique items are a lot easier to balance. They have a rarity, they drop, they're not something that's always available like an Ascendancy class, so balance can change on those far easier than they can on Ascendancies, right? So that's why they're not going to reveal a ton of uniques, because unlike Ascendancy classes, they just want to see people find these uniques for the first time and build wacky builds with them. So when we all play it on Twitch, by the way, twitch.tv/talkativetry, I stream there sometimes. I'm trying to do it more often. I've done it quite a bit in the past week, or on my extras channel. They want to watch our wild reactions when we find these phenomenal items, and I cannot wait for it, because guys, there's going to be 700 plus unique items in the game. What a ridiculous number that is. I'm so excited for it. How about you? Of these, okay, we have one more left, but of these, which are you the most excited for? Leave a comment below right now, or number 5 right now. Leagues. Which league mechanics are being transferred from PoE 1 to PoE 2? We have learned almost nothing about this. There are a few confirmed ones, although they will be heavily altered, like Delirium. Essences we've heard will be in PoE 2 as well, and a few others, but besides that, really nothing, and we don't know what they'll look like. You have Silver XYZ on his channel doing a League deep dive in how they will look in PoE 2. He just did Delve with Jorgen. It's going to be up on his channel very soon. He did Incursion as well. It's a very interesting thought that they've designed these leagues in PoE 1 while the game was live, and now they're going to port them to PoE 2 while they're still in PoE 1, and they're going to radically change them. So what will this look like? There's a lot of speculation to be had here. I'll leave it to Silver for now, but you can watch out on my channel for something very, very soon. So those were the 5 features that I am most excited about and have currently been unreleased or unrevealed. There's some other stuff like, will there be cinematics in PoE 2, right? There's going to be other items that we haven't even seen yet, like foci and the actual traps. We've not seen them in action. There's a ton of stuff. We'll talk about it at a later time though. Make sure if you liked the video to hit the like button. If you want to see more PoE 2 content, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well and the sub notification bell. I'm on the journey to 25,000 subscribers. I really hope that you can help me reach it before the end of this year. Seriously though, that's all for this video. If you want to watch another video on my channel, here's one right here about Blizzard and grinding your games and a key difference between the two development studios. Anyways, that's all for this video. Talkative Exiles.